Alright, Vault Hunters, Borderlands 4 is finally here, and you know what that means. It's time to argue about which class is the absolute best. This time around, we've got 4 brand new playable Vault Hunters, each packing 3 unique action skills and skill trees that completely change up how you play. Whether you're all about melting bosses in seconds, locking down entire groups of enemies, or just causing absolute chaos, there's a playstyle for everyone. But with so much power on the table, the big question is, who really comes out on top? In this video, we're breaking down every single skill tree for each Vault Hunter, ranking them from the ones that feel a little underwhelming to the ones that make you feel like a god of destruction. And of course, we'll be looking at how each class performs overall, because let's be real, your main says a lot about you. So grab your favorite loot, settle in, and let's dive into the definitive Borderlands 4 Vault Hunter tier list. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking classes in Borderlands 4. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Amon Onslaughter Red Tree, Vex Phase Familiar Red Tree, and Rafa Apophis Lance Blue Tree. Alright, let's be real for a second. Sometimes in Borderlands 4, you pull up a skill tree and think, oh wow, this is going to be insane. And then about 10 minutes later, you realize, nope, this is not it. That is exactly the case for the C-tier skill trees. They are not completely useless, but compared to the high-octane chaos you get with the stronger builds, these trees just do not keep up. Let's break down why these ones end up lagging behind the pack. First up, we have Amon's Calamity Tree, also called Onslaughter. This one sounds cool on paper. Melee focus, shield regeneration, movement speed bonuses, incendiary damage, and even a rocket punch attack. Sounds like a total powerhouse, right? The problem is, Borderlands is not really a melee game, and this tree proves it. Punching enemies might feel fun in the early waves, but try walking into a boss fight with just your fists, and you will be there until next week. Onslaughter basically turns Amon into a tank that refuses to die, but in exchange, you are stuck doing damage that feels like you are swinging pool noodles instead of rocket-powered fists. Now let's talk about Vex and her Phase Familiar Tree. This one gives her Trouble, a permanent cat companion. And yes, it is as adorable as it sounds, running around the battlefield with your own little murder cat by your side. Trouble actually has decent health and damage output, and the entire skill tree is focused on making him stronger. The issue is, his artificial intelligence can be incredibly frustrating. Sometimes Trouble is tearing enemies apart, and other times he is staring at a wall while you are getting shot in the face. Even worse, when enemies decide to gang up on Trouble, he goes down quickly, leaving Vex feeling weaker than ever. Cute idea, fun for a while, but not exactly a game changer. Rafa's People Person Tree, better known as Apophis Lance, is another one that kind of fizzles out. This tree equips him with an offhand arm cannon that shoots piercing blasts and deals shock ordnance damage. It sounds epic, dual-wielding a gun and a cannon like some kind of walking tank. But in practice, the damage is unimpressive, the range is painfully short, and there is no extra survivability to keep Rafa alive while he is blasting away. It feels less like wielding a powerful cannon and more like walking into a gunfight with a glorified taser. Sure, it looks stylish, but stylish does not kill raid bosses. What all 3 of these C-tier skill trees have in common is that they offer fun gimmicks, but they just do not hold up in high-level gameplay. Amon's Onslaughter makes you unkillable but painfully slow at killing. Vex's Phase Familiar is adorable but unreliable, and Rafa's Apophis Lance looks cool but plays weak. If you are just looking to mess around and have a good laugh, you can definitely have fun with these builds, but if your goal is to shred through enemies like the game's top-tier Vault Hunters, these trees will leave you feeling underwhelmed. So yeah, while Borderlands 4 gives us some absolutely incredible skill trees to play with, not every idea lands perfectly. That is the beauty of it though. You can experiment, try new builds, and find what works for your playstyle. Just maybe do not challenge a raid boss with nothing but Amon's rocket punch. Unless, of course, you are trying to set a record for world's longest boss fight. The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, RPK-16, Mosin Nagant, MAC-10, AK-102, Vector-45, SCARL, ACE-31, MDR, AUG, USAS-12, AN-94, and DTMDR. Got it. Let's give the B tier its moment. These guns are the middle children of Arena Breakout Infinite. They are not flashy S-tier stars, but they can absolutely hold their own if you give them the love and mods they deserve. Think of them as the dependable workhorses, reliable, but not always exciting. Let's break them down one by one, starting with the RPK-16. This is hands down the best light machine gun when it comes to sustained fire. It is controllable if you throw on the right grips, and the ammunition is cheap and everywhere. But of course, there is a trade-off. The handling is heavier, and the aim down sight speed is slower than what you get with assault rifles. Still, if you like the idea of laying down suppressive fire while your team pushes, this one is solid. Now let's talk about the Mosin Nagant, the budget sniper king. With tier 6 or tier 7 ammunition, you can one-shot players and make serious money on sniper runs. It feels great when it lands. The downside? Follow-up shots are painfully slow. Miss once, and you are probably toast. This rifle is unforgiving, but if you are accurate, it punches way above its tier. The MAC-10 is next, and this thing has a very specific role: leg meta. With flesh rounds, it shreds limbs like a blender, giving you insanely fast time to kill for almost no cost. It is small, lightweight, and makes a perfect secondary weapon. But here is the problem. It is basically useless outside of leg builds. Its range and penetration are terrible, and against armored players, you are just wasting ammo. Fun for memes, risky for raids. On to the AK-102, which might be one of the most underrated assault rifles in the game. It has solid damage per second, controllable recoil, and it is not going to bankrupt you to run it. If you want to fully min-max, the premium ammunition can get pricey, but overall this is a great sleeper pick. It is the gun that makes people say, wait, why don't I use this more often? Then we have the Vector .45. This one is a monster up close. With its insanely high rate of fire and low recoil, it melts targets when you are running hollow point or armor-piercing rounds for leg shots. But like most submachine guns, range and penetration hold it back. Outside of close quarters, you are just tickling the enemy. If you keep it in its lane though, it is deadly. Next is the SCARL. The SCAR has always had that reputation for feeling good in shooters, and it is the same here. It does good damage, has great mod potential, and feels stable even with basic builds. The catch? The fire rate is lower than some of its competition, and the price tag is a little higher than you would like for what it offers. Still, if you like a smooth, stable rifle, this is your guy. The ACE-31 is a bit of a hybrid weapon. You can run it semi-automatic for designated marksman rifle duties, or switch to full auto for close-range fights. It is compact, saves you some inventory space, and feels versatile. The downside is that its recoil in stock form is pretty mediocre. You will need to invest into mods if you want it to feel as good as it looks on paper. Let's talk about the MDR, a personal favorite for some players. This rifle has controllable recoil, strong mid to high firepower, and the flexibility to be built either as a budget-designated marksman rifle or an assault rifle. With the right attachments, it feels amazing to use. But if you compare it to top-tier rifles, like the HK, it falls short in raw time to kill. And yes, the best builds do cost a chunk of change. Then there is the AUG, another stable rifle platform. Even without modifications, it has high accuracy and smooth handling, which makes it attractive for budget-minded players. It shines in mid-range fights, especially if you do not want to spend big on an HK or AEK. But again, its raw damage per second does not quite match the absolute meta. To get the best results, you also need to pair it with the right barrel and optics. The USAS-12 is like the S12K's mean older brother. It is a fully automatic shotgun with a devastating rate of fire. In close quarters, this thing is nightmare fuel. Ambushes, small maps, or fast armory runs. It fits right in. But as always with shotguns, the range fall-off is brutal, and inconsistent one-shots mean you have to play practically in your enemy's lap. Fantastic in the right setting, bad anywhere else. Let's shine a light on the AN-94. This assault rifle has a unique mechanic, a hyper-fast 2-round burst. If you can master it, the time to kill on that first burst is insane. It also has surprisingly good recoil control in burst mode compared to standard full-auto rifles. The problem? Its ammunition and effective range do not scale as well as the big dogs in the meta. It is good, but it does not age gracefully. And then we have the DTMDR. Yes, another MDR, because why not? This one is known for excellent handling and recoil control when modded properly. Like its cousin, it has flexible mods and can fill the role of either a budget-designated marksman rifle or an assault rifle. But just like before, it falls behind the absolute meta rifles in time to kill. And the best builds are expensive. You can make it shine, but you will pay for it. So, in summary, the B tier is filled with reliable, flexible guns. They may not be flashy, but they are capable of winning fights and carrying raids, especially if you understand their strengths. They sit comfortably between budget junk and high-end beasts. Good, sometimes great, but not quite legendary. The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Harlow Flux Generator Green Tree and Aemon Scourge Blue Tree. When we step into the A tier skill trees, we are talking about builds that might not be completely broken like the S tier monsters, but they definitely pack enough power to make you feel like a walking highlight reel. These are the kind of trees that reward players who put in the effort, and while they may take some setup, once they are rolling, they feel amazing. Let's dive into the two standouts here, Harlow's Flux Generator and Aemon's Scourge. Starting with Harlow and her Flux Generator from the Cosmic Brilliance tree, this skill tree is all about balancing offense and defense. Throwing down an energy field that deals cryo damage, entangles enemies, and provides overshield is as stylish as it is effective. The real kicker, though, comes from stacking into this tree's upgrades. With the Group Study Capstone granting reload speed, fire rate, and gun damage, you can keep Harlow operating at max efficiency, especially when you learn how to constantly re-trigger the bonuses. It takes time to build up, but once you get it rolling, Flux Generator transforms Harlow into an ad-clearing machine who refuses to go down. Aemon's Scourge skill tree, also called Vengeance, is another prime example of endgame payoff. On paper, the mix of Forge a Shield for absorbing damage and the Forge Wave Whip for offense sounds versatile, but in practice the whip is not the star of the show. The real strength lies in the cryo damage and ordnance damage focus. With the right gear and investment, Aemon can spam rockets endlessly while spreading freezing effects across the battlefield. Bosses suddenly feel like fragile ice sculptures waiting to be shattered. It is not a plug-and-play tree, you will need the right setup, but once you have it, the carnage is incredible. Together, these two trees show exactly what makes a tier so fun. They are not flawless, but the reward for players willing to commit is huge. Harlow becomes an unstoppable team-oriented powerhouse, and Aemon turns into a one-man artillery strike. They may not hit the absurd ceiling of S-tier builds, but when used correctly, they feel just as satisfying, and that is exactly why they deserve their spot in A tier. The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Rafa Peacebreaker Cannon's Red Tree, Vex Incarnate Green Tree, Harlow Chroma Accelerator Red Tree, and Vex Dead Ringer Blue Tree. You know that moment in Borderlands when you finally stumble upon a build so powerful, it makes you question if the game accidentally glitched in your favor? That's the feeling of S-tier skill trees. These are not just strong, they are the pinnacle of chaos. The ones that let you melt bosses, clear entire maps, and laugh maniacally while your enemies explode into loot confetti. And in Borderlands 4, a few skill trees stand so tall above the rest that it almost feels unfair. Let's break down the kings and queens of carnage. First up, Rafa's Remote Agent Red Tree, the home of the Peacebreaker cannons. Imagine having shoulder-mounted artillery firing alongside your regular guns. Except eventually you realize, why even bother shooting? The cannons are doing all the work. With the right investments, these cannons can be set up to never run out, deal absurd damage, and obliterate everything in sight. Bosses? Gone in seconds. Waves of enemies? Vaporized. Entire areas? Cleared by the push of a button. This tree is the very definition of overkill, and players love it for that reason. Next, we have Vex's Incarnate Skill Tree from the green Vexcalation line. At first glance, the phase explosion looks kind of meh. Close-range damage that feels underwhelming on its own. But the magic of this tree lies in its synergy with skill points, especially when built around Bloodletter. Suddenly, everything comes together. Bleed effects, lifesteal, and kinetic damage stack into a horrifying single-target destroyer, Boss fights turn into speedruns as Vex siphons health back while dealing absurd damage. Few Vault Hunters can melt through bosses as quickly as Vex with Incarnate, and that alone secures its S-tier crown. Now let's talk about Harlow and her Creative Burst Red Tree, which gives her the CHROMA Accelerator. This is one of those press the button, delete enemies kinds of builds. It fires an unstable energy pocket that travels through enemies, deals damage, and then explodes in a burst of radiation. The best part? It is ridiculously easy to use. The cooldown is short, the investment is minimal, and the payoff is one-shotting bosses like it is nothing. Survivability might not be her strongest suit, but who cares when nothing stays alive long enough to hurt you? Chroma Accelerator is pure power wrapped in a stylish nuke. And then there is Vex's Blue Tree, Dead Ringer from the 4th Seal. This one feels like summoning your own personal army of chaos. Vex can call upon Reapers, phase clone minions that slash with melee, or Spectres, phase clones that unload with guns. You can mix and match them however you want, creating a swarm of glass cannons that draw aggro and shred enemies. The beauty of Dead Ringer is its versatility. You can lean into melee, gun damage, or a hybrid. Pair it with Incarnate, and suddenly Vex is fielding an army of clones while personally slicing bosses into ribbons. It is overwhelming in the best way possible. What makes these skill trees stand out from the A or B tier is how complete they feel. There is no, if you invest enough, maybe this will work. These trees just work. Rafa's cannons delete everything. Vex's Incarnate melts single targets like butter. Harlow's CHROMA Accelerator is a nuclear bomb with training wheels. And Dead Ringer is a minion master's dream that floods the battlefield with phase clones. These are builds that require little compromise, and they make the game feel hilariously tilted in your favor. It is also worth noting how much synergy exists in this tier. Vex players, in particular, can combine Dead Ringer with Incarnate to create a playstyle where she barely needs to fire a weapon herself. Her clones and bleed effects do everything while she just sits back and enjoys the show. Rafa and Harlow, meanwhile, are walking demonstrations of firepower. Their skills are so strong individually that combining them in co-op turns the battlefield into a complete spectacle of explosions and instant boss kills. At the end of the day, the S tier is where the game's true power fantasies live. These are the builds that make you feel unstoppable, the ones that take the already chaotic nature of Borderlands and crank it to 11. Sure, balance might be questionable when you are wiping out bosses in seconds, but Borderlands has never really been about balance, has it? It has always been about the thrill of excess, and these skill trees deliver that thrill in spades. So if you are the type of player who wants to stop worrying about ammo, cooldowns, or dying, and instead just focus on turning the battlefield into an endless fireworks show, these are the builds for you. S tier is not just the best, it is pure, unfiltered Borderlands mayhem. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.